the National Economic Development and Labour Council is currently hosting its 28th annual summit in Johannesburg. And the focus this year is to find ways for the government and social partners to work together in crisis-type situations. These including blackouts and climate change. But Deputy President Paul Mashatile is delivering the keynote address.
And most recently, in the development of an economic reconstruction and recovery plan adopted in 2020, where social partners came together to commit to actions, both individually and collectively, in response of the impact of COVID-19 on livelihoods. It is further encouraging that NEDLAC social partners have taken collaboration to a new level, particularly in response to COVID-19 pandemic. For example, a rapid response task team was set up, which moved beyond the traditional role that NEDLAC has continued to play. Arising out of the partnership forged in recent years, President Cyril Ramaphosa called for a social compact between government and social partners in his 2022 State of the Nation address. However, the deadline for the establishment of a written declaration of commitments and action has not yet been met. Nonetheless, since assuming the position of Deputy President, I have witnessed encouraging moves towards social compacting, such as a recent commitment by more than 15 CEOs to work with the government to reconstruct the economy. In the area of skills development, we have signed 3 social compacts through the Human Resource Development Council in the following areas. The first one, building the foundation for transformed economy and society. The second one, building the skills for a transformed economy and society. And lastly, building a capable and developmental state. These compacts support our country's most important social compact, which is the National Development Plan, which outline growth and development goals as well as the timelines. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to talk about 4 dimensions of social partnership and compacting, namely the what, the how, the who, and the why. What should we be partnering about? NEDLAC has historically sought to partner about the big policy choices that face our country. We have sought to follow an example of social democratic countries elsewhere that agreed, for example, to trade off wage increases for job stability. However, in South Africa, where unemployment is so high, and those who work support many of those who do not, this type of trade-off may be difficult to attain. The most pressing challenge appears to be one about ideological positioning among the social partners in respect of the path to growth, which have not shifted despite the enormous crisis the country faces. We must summon enough bravery and courage to discuss these matters openly in order to prevent the ticking time bomb of poverty, inequality, and joblessness from going off. This is not impossible to achieve. Through the presidency, Business for South Africa has initiated an important partnership with government, with its focus on 3 critical areas of energy, logistics, and crime. It has offered to bring in resources and expertise to accelerate progress and address the current impediments on economic growth. The government is pleased with this development, as it is a direct result of the successful partnership and collaborative efforts of NEDLAC, which therefore brings me to the who question. Who should form social partnership and social compacts? Program Director, I do not believe that there is a finite list of stakeholders that can be eligible, nor that all social compact must be tripartite or tripartite plus one. For example, the sector master plans on sugar, agriculture, clothing, retail, and more recently the renewable energy sector often has many signatories, including partners that are not national in character or not even in NEDLAC, but can bring something or gain something from committing to a common plan. The more important question to answer is whether the parties to the social compact can obtain a mandate from their constituencies and whether they have the capacity to fulfill their commitments. Because when this does not happen, social compacts can amount to nothing but talk shops, something we must avoid at all costs. On the how question, recently in the National Dialogue on Coalition Governments, which was held in the Western Cape, several countries that we invited shared their experiences with us on coalition building. A coalition government or coalition agreement is not dissimilar to a social compacting agreement, where there are needs, there's a need to also have a give and take, but also importantly define roles and responsibilities and agree on what to do together. Program Director, these comparative experiences I refer to basically deals with issues of principle, trust building, transparency, pragmatism, and patience. These are principles which are codified in the work of NEDLAC. There is an opportunity for NEDLAC and its social partners to share these across society while also recognizing that they cannot be taken for granted and in fact need to be reinforced in each and every social compact. NEDLAC has a responsibility to demonstrate to the nation that there can be win-win situations and that we can proceed with the best potential or least worst outcomes. We are facing a changing world where the impact of climate change is increasingly felt by all of us, whether it is the possibility of flooding, as we have seen in KwaZulu-Natal, or drought in places like the Eastern Cape, high temperatures in Uppington in the Northern Cape, making it impossible to cultivate fields, but also poor quality of air, which we have experienced in places like in Mpumalanga. This tells us, ladies and gentlemen, that climate change is here with us. The government's response has been to prepare for a just transition from the world as we know it today to the one which is friendlier to the environment and ultimately gives our children a safer future. We have been ably assisted in this task by the Presidential Climate Commission, which has provided key recommendations to the President to implement and has worked tirelessly to build social compacts with stakeholders at the national, provincial and local level. I'm glad that they will be also making a presentation here. It will only be through partnerships that we can ensure that everyone is supported to transition to new employment or better livelihoods and provided with the necessary social support mechanisms. If not, those that are negatively affected now may resist this transition, but that will happen to the detriment of future generations. I am sure, Program Director, that the tradition of social partnership by NEDLAC are being carried forward by the PCC while focusing on new issues that require new tactics that can be shared by social partners and stakeholders. Participative policy initiatives that search for and build consensus with key players in society have a good chance of sustainable implementation. It is important for NEDLAC social partners to seize the opportunity of celebrating 30 years of democracy and reflect on past achievements, assess the current situation, and voice their opinion on how the government should tackle major policy issues in the next decade. In addition, social partners should focus on preparing for and building resilience in the face of challenges, especially in areas of healthcare crisis, natural disasters, deteriorating infrastructure, and rising levels of disruptive crime and vandalism. The reality is that some terrible aspects of our country cannot be wished away. Instead, we must indeed prepare for these crises to preserve lives and livelihood and then address systematic challenges, as I've referred to, climate change, and also ensure improvement to water access, particularly in rural communities. Program Director, in closing, let me quote Martin Luther King, who once said the following: "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenges and controversy." Close quotes. I'm sure the women in the room will say, I should say, the ultimate measure of a man and a woman. In our times, we can't leave our women behind. So we can refine this quote of Martin Luther King and say the ultimate measure of a man and a woman is not where he or she stands in moment of comfort and convenience, but where he or she stands at times of challenge and controversy. I do hope that arising from the deliberations later this morning, you will emerge out of this summit wiser and more determined, more resilient, to stand and deal with the challenges of our era. Program Director, I have decided to stay here until the end of the summit. Because Program Director has already indicated that it's my first time. So I actually don't know what NEDLAC is. So I should stay here, hear you out, and participate. However, there is only one small problem. The President is at G20 in India, and he had asked me to attend to some pressing matters, so I have to be somewhere at 1:30. But I'm hoping that by that time we should be close to the end. Yeah, actually Lisa promised that. We should be. But I wish you fruitful deliberations, and may NEDLAC grow stronger and stronger. We need you.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Minister and His Excellency, the Deputy President, who is the Acting President of the Republic of South Africa, Ntate Paul Mashatile, as they exit the stage.
President Paul Mashatile also making a commitment there, a bold one at that, despite his schedule, he will be sticking around for the NEDLAC Summit. It's their 28th annual sitting today, and he should be there at least until 1 o'clock or so, as he has other pressing issues as directed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. But of course, just emphasizing on the importance of this partnership, this gathering of social partners in addressing some of the pressing issues in the country. Not isolated, though, to South Africa, but it seems are felt in the continent, felt around the world. Of course, just coming out of, COVID-19 a couple of years ago, the lockdowns more specifically, there's still a lot of work the Deputy President alluded to when it comes to, of course, joblessness, unemployment, but also ensuring that as they mitigate through these challenges, they preserve lives and livelihoods. But another issue that the Deputy President mentioned is around climate change, saying South Africa was not, spared when it comes to the impact of climate change. We've seen flooding out in KwaZulu-Natal. We've seen drought being recorded in parts of the Eastern Cape, high temperatures in Appleton being recorded, but also poor air quality in parts of Mpumalanga. So it's up to those who have gathered today to work alongside, of course, all the key role players, be it in government, private sector, or in civil society, to come together and see what resolutions can be found in this gathering to ensure that those lives and livelihoods continue to be protected and preserved right here in South Africa, as of course the progress on rebuilding the economy and improving on it continues. So I suppose he's making that step and that commitment by sticking around summit. I mean, if you're a keynote address, especially a deputy president with that schedule, one would assume or always evidently see a keynote address being granted, and then he would need to vacate and leave to his other pressing matters. But at this point, it seems the Deputy President presenting here quite an opportunity for social partners coming from various organized businesses, but also community groups, calling on them, including organized labor, to come together and review this comprehensive report on NEDLAC's activities. And I will keep you updated on how it goes, as now the NEDLAC Summit has officially been opened.